going on? Why is everybody looking at each other and calling all these people? Okay, right there, that's your anxiety trigger. Right then and there. This is James, your host at thebossupstairs.com. This episode is going to be about NAIA, N-A-I-A Airport in Manila, Philippines. And it's going to be regarding what foreigners face scams on random searches. And it's not always foreigners. So anyway, we're also going to interview a group of employees over at Park Inn in Bacolod that we've known for years, and do a little room tour there and just kind of show you the place where we've kind of called our second home for the last 3 years. And, some upcoming episodes, we've got some things we're going to talk about driving in the Philippines. The problem is the liability for foreigners and for expats out here is tremendously high. So we're going to get into that in one of the next episodes here, because there's an episode coming up that talks about government employees for traffic control, and that's one of the other reasons why we also sold our cars, because we took a trip out to Manila to see our daughter in college, and the second we got on the road, we already got stopped. All right, you guys, so let's get into this video at NAIA Airport and dive into this and see what's going on there. And hopefully this information will really help foreigners and Filipinos traveling in there, because they don't just target foreigners.
In a Facebook post on Saturday, March 8, 69-year-old Ruth Adele said she was accused by Office of Transport Security personnel of carrying a bullet in her luggage.
And even they're good, but there's a few rogue ones in there that want to make a little bit of money with a little bit of a side hustle there.
Personnel from the Department of Transportation's Office of Transport Security have been dismissed following an alleged Bala incident at Ninoy Aquino International Airport, according to the Department of Transportation. Nearly caused her to miss her flight to Vietnam on March 6. According to Adele, she and her family were already at the boarding gate when the Office of Transport Security personnel approached her, claiming they found an anting-anting in her bag. When Adele asked what an amulet was, a security officer, while laughing, told her that an X-ray scanner had detected a bullet shell in her baggage. She denied the claim and asked for an on-the-spot inspection of her luggage, but security personnel insisted she accompany them. However, Adele and her family refused to go with them as their flight was already boarding. The Office of Transport Security personnel then called a supervisor, who later claimed the bullet shell was in her handbag and not in her luggage. They also showed her an X-ray image supposedly proving their claim. But Adele said her bag did not have keys, unlike that in the photo they were showing her.
So actually what happened in her case is that wasn't her bag, but yet they assumed it was her purse that they were scanning and questioning that something was in there. So see, there's all kinds of things that could happen. And in this case, it sounded like they possibly tried to pull the scam, but they screwed up and got the wrong bag to the wrong person. Because it has happened to my wife and I was the target. So they called it the bullet scam, about planting that in a traveler's backpack, because now they're focusing on backpacks which are easy to open and drop in. Now what they're doing is ammunition powder test. So they have the little machine set up at the end of the conveyor belt, and they'll ask you, you'll walk through, and let's say you put your backpack, in the bin, and it goes through, and as you walk through, and then you put your hands up, and it does the 360 turn, and you get out, and then they ask you, sir, is this your bag? You say, yes, it's my bag. Okay, it's been selected for random search. So, okay, in the U.S. or other countries, it was no big deal. Yeah, go ahead, do random search. I have no problem opening it and doing all that stuff. Well, that's not quite how it works. So they'll take it, and then they'll walk you over to a separate area. And that's where the problems begin. If you allow them to walk you to a separate area, they won't touch the bag. And there's a reason why they don't touch the bag. They used to in the past, but they're not even allowed to do that anymore. Now, in no way, shape, or form does the Philippines condone this. Okay? This is just a few rogue, employees, and they're usually subcontractors. They're not even employees of the government or the airport. They're subcontractors that are brought in to do this. It's TSA, basically. So they'll ask you to carry your bag to a different location. And if this is your first time, experiencing this, it's not a problem, especially if you're used to it in your country of origin, right? So you carry it over there to the place and they lay it down. Man takes a swab out. Swab is maybe the loop, the straps on it or the bottom, kind of swabs everywhere, right? And then he puts the swab into a machine, looks at the screen on the machine, makes the face and does this, calling someone else over, I guess, to verify. Is this right? It's showing a positive. Positive for what? You're thinking, well, why is everybody looking at each other and calling all these people? Okay, right there, that's your anxiety trigger. Right then and there. Okay? And for most of us, you know what I'm talking about. I really enjoy airports. I do. I enjoy airports, I enjoy flying, and I think it's great. But my entire outlook on that has changed entirely. And the anxiety involved traveling through an airport after that experience changes people. It changes them a lot. And in my case, I really don't want to go to an airport in Manila anymore. And it's not the Philippines, and it's not the airport. They're all fine. There's nothing wrong there. The problem is they bring subcontractors in, independent contractors to do the TSA work, and they have no idea the harm, the mental endurement that a passenger goes through, and their whole entire outlook on travel changes them. And we talk about how it hurts their community. Hey, real quick, you guys, I want to interrupt for just a second because there's an episode coming up that talks about government employees for traffic control, and that's one of the other reasons why we also sold our cars, because we took a trip out to Manila to see our daughter in college, and the second we got on the road, we already got stopped, and they attempted to give us a citation for running a red light. Well, we did no such thing, and we had dash cams on our car and stuff. So, but there's always two traffic management people, and they could be LTOs, and I think Manila they're MMDAs. I'm not really sure, but they're official, and they can write tickets. They can confiscate your license, and make you come back to court. So they know if they're pulling over a foreigner that usually sometimes maybe they're visiting, they're from a province or they're from another island, and they know the foreigner's not going to want to have to pay, 20, 30K just to come back to do that. So I want you to really watch that episode, because I'm sure that whoever's been driving, you know what I'm talking about. You most likely have been stopped. And it's, sir, do you want to pay the fine right here and now, or do you want to come back, fly back to Manila and go to court? So we talk about that, and it's interesting because it's the day we sold our car, and both the buyer of the car, when we drove out of the port, he got his ticket first. And then literally 3 minutes later, we crossed a large intersection, and there's always two traffic control people. And I don't want to use the word traffic control. The controllers are great, but these are like, I'm just going to call them ticket writers, because I know they have all these different names. But when you see that, when you see two people, two traffic enforcement officers standing together at a large intersection, man, you just pretty much count on getting pulled over. And it doesn't matter if you ran the light or not. If you did, okay, it's justified. If you didn't, they'll pull you over. So watch that episode. It's going to be coming up, I think, in the second one. Because people will not go to that airport anymore. People may not go to any airport anymore. Okay? I've decided now for a while, I think we're just going to take a ferry. When we need to go to Manila, I got 20 hours. I'll just get a suite, one of their bigger rooms, private rooms, and my wife and I will just take that over to whatever island we're going to. So I understand getting on a ferry process. I understand because I know I'm going to see it in the comments. Oh, you're crazy. The ferry, it takes you, 20 hours just to check in. And I got that. No, we've taken one once before because I wanted to try the experience. And that was just a short one. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is more of a hassle sometimes to do that. But we're not taking a car. So we're not checking in a car. So we're not taking a row. It's just basically like a to-go or one of those passengers only. But still, I understand. We've done it. You have to go to like 6 different windows to, to get this, and that. But you know what? I'm retired. Okay, if it takes me 40 hours to get to Manila or Cebu or Iloilo, I don't care. I don't really care. But you know what I do care about? My family's safety. And I don't mean the safety with the pilots flying the plane, because they're excellent pilots. They're excellent. Filipino skilled workers they're skilled technicians, they're skilled pilots. They're very good. I have no reservations with that. It's before you even get on the plane. Just getting to the gate and sitting down is the problem for me. I know others have experienced it too, but I thought it was pretty isolated, and I thought, oh, maybe they just picked me, maybe they seen a little bit of money I had in the bag, which I didn't. It was my computer bag that they targeted. And they kept trying to say, no, there's traces of powder, like ammunition type powder on the bag. And then it might just be your medication. Oh, okay, it might be my medication, How about it might be when you put a bin out there for people to put their stuff in, if their system is, if there is that sensitive, then maybe they shouldn't use it, or they should calibrate it properly. Because those bins that you put your things in, whether it's just your belt, your phone, your AirPods, your glasses, your computer bag, whatever it might be, what do you think is on that bin? It's almost as bad as money, handling money. How many germs and things are on that? So if their system is that sensitive and it's picking up things, well, who's to say it didn't pick it up from the 2 or 3 bins that you and your family used to put your items in? So that's why I believe they have these things sometimes set where they want them set, so they can justify a random search. But again, it's only a rogue few. So for me, as I'm playing Russian roulette, well, does this lane here, because at NAIA Airport you've got, like any large airport, maybe 4 or 5 lanes to put your bags on. Which lane is the lane that's not going to pull the scam on us, on you? So how does this affect you? Now, if you don't travel by air, it doesn't affect you a bit, but you may have family and friends that do, be people that come and visit you. Maybe some of you YouTubers out there, could help share this story and create your own version of the story in one of your episodes would be great. Because that's what I'm about. I just want to share information, not only with the expats, but their families who are Filipinas. So everyone is in the know, because knowledge is power, and knowledge is a very big part about what keeps us safe in a country that we're guests in. Because I don't care, I'm a permanent resident here, but nothing's permanent in life. Like I said in a prior video, nothing's permanent in life. So sometimes, probably I'd say 50% of the time, in a foreign country, not just the Philippines, we're always going to be at fault. Okay, the guest will always be at fault. The tourist visa person, the permanent resident visa person, the 30-day digital nomad. That's the. But generally, when anything like this happens and it escalates, they first bring in the local police that's already there at the airport. And the second thing they do is they bring in PMP, and PMP usually has their special division with the dogs, and that's exactly what happened in the case of my wife and I. They had us sit down, waited for PMP to come with the dog. So the dog went and sniffed the bag, and of course found nothing. You know, it didn't react, and of course I'm sitting there looking at my wife going, oh please, if there's any time I never want a dog to bark, it's right now. So, and of course he didn't. You know, my wife throughout this whole thing was very, very confident that nothing was going to become of it. Now of course, you know, she's Filipina. She knows the culture. She can read people's faces like most of you can that are from here, you know, that have spent your life here. So me, though, as a foreigner, you know, I mean, I'm used to traveling through airports. However, I've never experienced this like at LAX or Dulles or you know, or Dallas Fort Worth, Atlanta. You know, I used to travel through a lot of different airports. Yeah, I never, ever experienced this. So there are some tips on here that I've researched out, and they're on the internet. Anybody can pretty much look at these. And my wife, in my case, we were just traveling domestically, and it still occurred that. And also definitely, and you see it in there now, you know, wrap your bags. I know that some people think that's just, you know, going overboard, but it's not. There's some phone numbers here that I now keep in my phone, and I would suggest you do the same. You know, you may never have to use them. Hopefully you don't. Okay, guys, so the main takeaway on this really is not that we're not going to travel to an airport again, you know, and use air as part of our transportation, but we're going to just be a lot more careful, and that's what kind of the point of the video is too. Just to put the information, heads up out there that, hey, you know, this is kind of what we experienced, and we've actually seen others experience in the security line. So some people, it was just with their hands. They accused one guy of having powder on his hands. So obviously, you know, they're not calibrating their machines right, or maybe they are, and this is they're just being extra careful, or maybe it is a scam. I don't know, but considering the ones that you know, the Transportation Security Agency has sacked, you know, they fired them. You kind of got to think it's the latter. In some upcoming episodes, we've got some things we're going to talk about driving in the Philippines. My wife and I think I mentioned in some previous videos, sold our vehicles. We had 2 vehicles, and we sold them both. We just recently sold our last one. And it wasn't because we, you know, don't like to drive. I've been driving for many, many years, and I enjoy driving just like I enjoy flying. The problem is the liability for foreigners and, you know, for expats out here is tremendously high. So we're going to get into that in one of the next episodes here. And the other one is we actually went to lunch yesterday, and I wish you would have had some of my lavalier mics, because I wanted to interview owner of a restaurant in Bacolod, and it's a really cool restaurant. I'm not going to say the name yet because I want you to be a little bit surprised about it, but it's kind of hidden in a brand new building. It's not a little small place. It's furnished, got aircon. It's really, really decorated nicely and comfortably to Western style. So I want to introduce you to him. He's the owner. He is from Philadelphia, and he's got Philly sandwiches there and all kinds of things that are just out of this world. Like and subscribe to all of our daily and weekly fresh video content. Thank you, and have a blessed day.